do.
My name is Iris Roley, and let me say the whole name. So it's Iris Shows Roley. I do several things. The one thing that I do that feeds my soul and feeds my body and my mind is Roadshow Awards and Graphics. And so the reason I gave you all three names is because Roadshow is a combination of my married name, which is Roley, and Shows, which is my maiden name. It's 5 letters for my husband, myself, and our 3 sons. Now, Roadshow is a laser engraving business. It is the only Black-owned in this region that does trophies, plaques, graphics. We do apparel and signage. We do promotional items. And so in that business is what has fed me and allowed me to do the social work in the community for the Black folk in the city of Cincinnati. And that work has been centered around police reform, police accountability, and transformation, along with public safety. 21 years ago, we sued the city and the FOP and the police for racial profiling. We were alleging that police were abusing Black people through traffic stops. This is something that you see all over the country now. And what we have done, we focus primarily on our police department. We didn't want to focus on a case, we wanted to focus on the entire police department. And we wanted to root out any opportunities where there could be inequities in treatment of police in the Black community, from youth to our elders. So we work from discipline to hiring, to firing, to policies, procedures, all of those things that are wrapped inside of what police do every day. We also are the creators of our our Citizens Complaint Authority, which is led by community people, citizens. It is the oversight of the work. We also are the authors of our Community Police Partnering Center, which resides inside of the Urban League. So for the past 20 years, we have removed policies that allow for bad policing, been extremely instrumental in design and promotion of those that promote equity. We've been extremely involved in the hiring of new officers, our police chief, lateral officers, and those that are moving up. I work closely with the city manager in the city of Cincinnati. So much so, I'm now the consultant to the city around all things policing and everything that surrounds the collaborative agreement, from the first iteration in 2001 to our refresh of our agreement from 2017. So that is who I am and what I've been doing for a very long time.
Awesome.
So that is who I am and what I've been doing for a very long time.
Raised in Cincinnati?
Yes, born and raised in the city of Cincinnati. Grew up in the community of Avondale. Loved Avondale, one of the largest Black neighborhoods in the city. It is where Black folks migrated for better housing and education from the East End and West End to Avondale. And now you see a difference in Avondale. You see different people. But it was where I was reared and raised. There was a space in Avondale where folk who would be considered the radical people, they were in one of the synagogues in Avondale that was given to them to organize, to prepare for better life for Black people in the city of Cincinnati. It was called the Black House, and it was an old Jewish synagogue that sat on the corner of Forest and Harvey Avenue. And that is where I got my training and my teaching to be the responsible Black woman that I am, to love me, to love mine, and to fight until the day I die for equity in our lives. So born and raised in Avondale, and I was developed in Avondale, and I still travel through Avondale. Yes, ma'am. First off, we don't call it a riot, we call it an uprising, because when you're responding to a crisis, and you're of the crisis, meaning we were the people that were being bestowed upon in a very negative way by our police. So we designed, we were in the streets. We filed a federal lawsuit in federal court so that we could have that hammer. But we also, didn't see the city and the powers that be coming to the table with sincerity So we enacted a sanction and boycott. We enacted a sanction on travel and tourism because we understood that when you stop the flow of dollars into the city, then you stop the activity. Well, let me take a step back. So we actually organized the Cincinnati Black United Front. We organized because 14 of our downtown, out of the 34 restaurants that were downtown at that time, decided that they were going to close in the weekend that you're making this app available. So when all of these black people are in town, 14 restaurants that had gotten your and my tax dollar to buy furniture, fixture, to fix up outside decided they were going to close. And they wrote this letter to the regional chamber and said that black people, when they come to Cincinnati, that we don't know how to order. We steal silverware. We steal salt and pepper shakers. We take menus. It was 14 insane reasons why these restaurants were allowed to close their doors during the music festival. So that's the original reason that we organized in the year of 2000. And then in November of 2000 is when we had our 2 and 24, when Jeffrey Irons and Roger Owensby Jr. were killed at the hands of Cincinnati Police Department, and our community asked us to do something. But there were 5 organizations that were out on the streets then, and so I think 2 of the other organizations took lead on the restaurant piece and negotiated with the restaurants in the chamber. But that's when we felt like when we were doing the racial profiling lawsuit that the city was dragging its feet, that's when we enacted the sanctions and boycott. So we stopped the flow. We actually shut down the Music Fest for 3 years. And so the powers that be, not the ones that are elected, but the powers that be came and said, you know, hey, what can we do? What can we literally do? There was some monetary offering that was offered to us. We turned it down. And although we never were thoroughly satisfied with what we got, because our demands, when all 5 organizations came together and we put all of our demands together, it was more than just police reform. Now just imagine if at the same time we worked on housing, food equity, pay equity, health equity, housing equity, educational equity, for black people specifically for the past 20 years. Just imagine where black people will be. The unfortunate part is that sometimes organizations and groups fall apart and we don't stick to it. But that is the blueprint, because all we did was followed our ancestors and those who came before us. We pulled every trick out of the Civil Rights Handbook that you can imagine. Now remember, I said we hit the streets, right? We filed in federal lawsuit, and when the city was dragging its feet, we then enacted the sanctions and boycott on travel and tourism. Our first international star that called us in the year of 2001 and said, I will not cross your picket line, was none other than Bill Cosby. Then Mary J. Blige, then Prince, then the National Baptist Convention took $1 million hit for black people in the city. They said, we will not come to the city if the police are beating and killing black people. Now, this was before the internet was as wide as it is. This is when you had a data package on your cell phone. You had to say, call me after 9, or call me before 7, or before 9, before the rates went up. And we consistently had these large cell phone bills because we were trying to communicate. And that was before we had the opportunity to email and communicate. So we were still doing things old school, writing letters, calling people on the phone, flying in and out to talk to heads of organizations to not bring their conferences to the city of Cincinnati, to not bring their dollars. And we were successful. Now, it's not recorded, and I don't think people will say, but we calculated upwards of $220 million that we stopped the city from getting in those days. And shutting down everything from jamming on Main, which they don't have anymore, to when they would bring black acts like James Brown. They brought Mr. James Brown in and paid him $15,000. We threw 15,000 pennies at him. He was off the stage in like 87 seconds. They would have these things to have people come in and break what we were trying to do. It didn't work. And as you see, we do have one of the greatest documents ever written, and it was written by black people and for black people, because the class reads, all African Americans and or black people who are perceived as such, who live and walk on the streets and thoroughfares of the city of Cincinnati, and who come into contact with Cincinnati police and or their agents. the last line reads all others. And I want to be clear, Black people don't want to be on the top of this bucket. We don't want to have to do this work. But damn it, we can't pay you with our tax dollar to provide and to protect and serve us, and you're abusing us. And then if we sue, we still have to pay on the back end because taxpayers pay for these lawsuits. So we've been working 21, almost 22 years on reforms, and as I said, I think we've done significant work. The foundation of the agreement, and then I'll stop talking about it, is that the philosophy of policing had to change. We changed the philosophy that they had to be data-driven, laser focused on who was committing the crime, using the crime triangle, the place, the manager, the guardian, who, what, when, and where, right? And not everybody that potentially looked like somebody. And the police had to be held accountable, so that meant changing how to hold police accountable. We can quantify now that the interactions between African Americans and the police has been reduced by 50%. When you reduce interactions to the ones that are necessary and not the ones that are unnecessary, things don't go awry as they used to. We also know that use of force is down by 50%. So with using laser force, problem solving, SARE, scanning, analysis, response, and assessment, using these tools actually help you to police better. And then thirdly, and certainly not the last piece, but engaging the community is critically important. I know that Black folks in Cincinnati get tired of me saying, come to a meeting, I need to hear your voice. What do you want in the chief? What do you want in the assistant chiefs? What do you want in your police officers? How do you want them to police you? I know they get tired, but it's a must because we always have to have this thing called continuous improvement.
Progress.
I am. It comes out of darkness and despair and death. And I've lost a cousin during trying to reform Cincinnati police to the hands of UC police. So the sacrifice is real too. But you do have to celebrate the progress and the wins. And yes, I am. I know that we've had 5 SWAT responses and nobody has died. Nobody got shot. Everybody has walked away. And I know that we have the alternatives to crisis, meaning if Iris is having a mental health breakdown, if I'm not violent, then the social workers and doctors are deployed, not police, because we don't need police there. I know that if I'm homeless, police are not deployed. Other people and resources are deployed. So it's those type of progress steps in moving forward to see people in a holistic way, in a human way, that I'm so very proud of. I have to be proud of it so that I can continue to have hope and pass that hope on down to those who are coming behind me. It is so very important so that they never repeat it. It is something wonderful about stepping into your greatness. It's okay. We are great people. We are brilliant people. We built the world. And so to not know your history is criminal. Young folks need to know their history so that they can know that those who came before them fought for them. We may not have succeeded at everything, but we have fought for them, and I never, ever want them to think that we have left them or forgotten them. Even if we didn't birth them, they are still ours. And so the work that we do is on the collective. Not always individual, it's about the collective. So when you know that, you can step right on in and take the mantle and keep running with it. Because I'm looking for those innovators in public safety. How do we take it and reimagine it? How do we really own our communities? How do we get back to that, right? How do we get the ebb and flow so that we know who's where and who's what? So knowing your history is critically important, and knowing that your ancestors and the people that are older than you love you, and that we're out here fighting for you. Well, many people don't know this, but I was constructed to be Iris Roley. as I said earlier, I was born and raised in the Black house in Avondale. That was development to be who I am today. And I was always taught on a level at a certain age, these are the things that you have to do. So it will be until I take my last breath.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.